So welcome to our module on getting your first few clients. In this module, we will explore a three-step framework that will help you get your first few clients and start making money for your business. Now, I actually want to start this module by telling you a personal story on how I even got my first client, how I started entrepreneurship, and it all starts in my second year at UCLA. Everything was going okay. I didn't have to worry about making income. I didn't have to worry about getting a job because I actually saved some money and I took out a loan, so I didn't have to think about that. But then something changed. Yeah, and in my second quarter, I actually failed one of my classes that was a requisite for my major. So I had to retake it in the summer. The only issue is I didn't know how I was going to pay for this. This class was around $1,000, and I don't come from a family to really ask my dad, like, "Hey, Dad, can you give me $1,000 so I can pay for my class?" So I had to figure something out, right? When I take a look back at my personal journey, the only skills I had at this time were photography, filming videos, because I used to create content on YouTube in high school. So I just started thinking to myself, like, what if I can actually start charging people for taking their photos? So I go to the Start BCLA office. I tell them my situation. I also tell them about my status, and I tell them that I need to find a way to sort of make money, and I'd love to, start doing some freelance photography. Now, the most interesting part about this interaction with this lady is that a month later, she ended up sending me an email asking me if I could take photos of an entrepreneurship student event on campus. And at this time I was sort of surprised because I had just spoken to her. She barely knew me, but she knew I was in this situation. And I remember her asking me this question, like, how much do you charge? How much will you charge me for this service? And I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it. So at that time I told her, are you able to pay $600? Because realistically, I was like, if I could just get $200, this would be great. And I expected her to say no. I expected her to say no, that she wasn't going to be able to pay $600. And she said yes, which was the most interesting part about this. And here you can see a screenshot of, the photo, the event that I photographed in my second year at UCLA. This happened in 2019. And I took these photos. They paid me for this time. And then eventually, I also started taking photos for another event called Startup UCLA, and I could get into that a little bit later. But this actually brings me to step one of getting your first few clients when you're starting a business. And that step one is to get people to know you, right? The reason why people buy certain products, the reason why you buy Coca-Cola, why you buy Nike, why you buy certain brands is because you know about them. And like I mentioned earlier, this is actually how I ended up getting my first client, right? I went to the Startup UCLA office. I let her know that I know how to take some photos. Now, one thing that I do want to let you guys know is that even though I did make some money, I was actually confused. And the reason why I was confused is because I realized that, yes, I made money, but I realized one more thing. I realized that the number of clients were limited, right? Because events only happen a few times a year. When I was taking a look at my balance between how much I could earn and my balance between the number of clients that I could get, yeah, I could potentially get $800 for the service, but there's only so many events happening on campus that I could actually charge $600 for. So I had to think of something else, right? I realized that there wasn't a lot of frequency, even though I can make some money. I needed something that could scale much faster. And I asked myself this question, like, is it possible for me to find a niche within photography that more people might need so I could have a bigger market, right? And then I realized that, yes, there was a niche within photography that a lot of people might be willing to pay me for. So I came up with the headshot photography. I didn't know for who this service was going to be for. I didn't know where I was going to do this service at, because headshot photography is usually done in a studio. And the interesting part about how I sort of did market research on this is I went to LinkedIn and I started looking at every single UCLA undergraduate LinkedIn profile, and I realized that their photos were taken on their phone, their headshots were on their phone. And I was like, what if I can actually take photos for UCLA students for their LinkedIn profile, so when they graduate, when they apply for jobs, they just have a better professional image, right? And that's exactly where I had to start all over again, right? Like, even though I had gotten my first client through event photography, I used the same concept to get my first client with headshot photography. Nobody knew that I was a photographer. Nobody knew about me. Nobody knew about that I was trying to start the service. So I was like, okay, what is it that I can provide so people can get to know me in a much larger scale, right? I didn't just want one person to know about me. I wanted multiple people to know about me. And pretty much to figure this all out, I created this free event for UCLA students. And I said that I was going to be offering free headshots to any student that needs it. From August 5th to 7th, from 2 to 5 p.m. I had a few photos that I had taken from some of my friends, and I put that on a flyer and I released it on a GroupMe. And that's when I was like, okay, let me just make 20 spots. I'm going to see how many people are going to actually book me, how many people are actually going to show up. The beauty about it is that 12 people actually signed up and 6 people actually came to the event. And even though I made $0 on this event, there was a lot of things that I learned. The first thing that I learned through the service was how can I deliver the photos once I complete them. The second thing that I learned is how do I work with shy clients? Some people are just shy, and how do you get them to feel comfortable in a headshot photo? And that was another thing that I learned. The third thing that I learned was how do I actually book clients for my future services, right? Because there's got to be a way to sort of automate that. The fourth thing that I learned was actually how to take the photos, right? What lens am I going to use? What is the best lighting? What is the best time to actually take these photos? What location on campus am I actually going to start doing this for? And I got a lot of real-time feedback, right? I got a lot of real-time feedback on like, how do I communicate to my clients before they arrive to the event, after they arrive to the event? What is the first thing that I tell them? Because it's all about, having people skills, connecting with them to make them comfortable for the shoot. And the last thing that I learned was, how to host an event at 19 years old, right? I mean, I hosted this event, how to manage everything, and it was great. So even though I made $0, I learned a lot about the whole process of what happens before I do this service, what happens during the service, and what happens after, right? So now you're probably wondering, okay, you got all these photos, so you got these people's contact information, you went through the whole process, you learned. So what do you do after, right? And that brings me to step two. Your step two, once you've sort of done this for a select amount of people, you can start showing proof and showing credibility of your service, right? Now, there's several ways that you can actually do this. The way that I did this was I created a simple website on adobe.com. Adobe my portfolio, and I just included all the headshots. And this was going to be one form of credibility that I could show future clients that I had done this before and show my work and show past clients, right? The other way that I showed my credibility is I actually had a photography account that I no longer have access to. In this photography account, I pretty much just showcased street photography, but I was also pretty popular on that account. I was getting an average of 800 likes, an average of 200 comments, because I had a network of other photographers online. And that also helped me sort of show this credibility along with my portfolio, right? So once you've done it a few times, once you have your proof, now it's time to start marketing this and advertising this, right? And pretty much there's multiple channels that you can do this at, right? You can do this on social media. You can do this via email. You can do this via text messages. But I actually chose to go the social media advertising route. This was my ad that I invested $60. And I put a price to my service. I said, I'm going to be charging $15 per service. I added like a pain point. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile? My target audience were college students that were interested in getting a fresh new headshot. I included a call to action where people can either email me or they can direct message me on Instagram. And the most interesting part about, all of my credibility and my proof was that my target was, UCLA students. However, my first client actually was a student at Cal State Northridge. And this was actually my first client that paid me $15 to come to Burbank and take his headshots. And then from there, I went from one client to two clients, and I started getting better. And then from two clients to 64 total customers in a span of a few months. And as you can see here, I mean, I went from charging $15 per headshot to charging $30 to $40. To then doing group ones where I could charge 150, like literally for 30 minutes. And then I even did bigger groups where I started charging for 340 or like even $700 almost for bigger groups, right? And the interesting part about this all is that to go from here to here, all it took was one ad to get here. And then from here, it was all just word of mouth. That's the beauty about having a good service. If people enjoy it, it was cheap. And that leads me to the three-step framework, right? So putting it all together, the three-step framework, which I call the prepare framework. Your first step is to get people to know you, right? The second step is to show proof that your service works. And then your step three is to start marketing. And then your step four is you repeat, right? You start all over again. So you do step one, step two, step three, step four, and do it again. And you keep going. Now, I want to show you the photography service through this framework. So step one was to get people to know you. I did a free event. People attended that free event. I got to learn a lot of new things. Step two is to show proof. That's where I created my portfolio. Your step three is to start marketing it. And that's when I did this ad. And then my step four, doing it over and over again develops my business service, which was at that time it was called Headshots on the Go. It's no longer there, but you can see here that I would help young professionals accelerate their career by making sure they have the best first impression. And we can talk about that a little bit later in future courses, but that's how it goes, right? So you first do it once for a select few people, you get credibility, you build a portfolio, and then you start marketing it. And that's how you develop your service, right? Now, to get people to know you, there's actually 4 ways that I've personally used, and I want to share them with you because I do want you to be successful in this. And I believe that anybody can do these 4 things to start getting the first 5 clients. The first thing is, to give it away for free, right? Like I mentioned earlier, this is actually the first strategy that I used when I was just trying to get a portfolio, when nobody knew about me, when I was trying to still learn about my service, if this was something that I was gonna do. And again, you got nothing to lose and you learn a lot. And because it's free, people are most likely to help you out and give you real constructive criticism. Now, the second way that you can get clients is by sending code messages via social media, via email, via text messages to different people. If you have social media followers, let's say you have 500 followers, send every single person a message, right? Send them a message about your service. If you have 200 contacts on your phone number, maybe call a few people, maybe text a few people, right? And that's how you start getting the word out there, because like I mentioned earlier, people don't buy from you because they don't know about you, right? The third way that you can actually get your first 5 clients is to go ahead and give discounts, right? So give one-time discounts, get first client discounts, give buy one, get one free discounts, and feel free to get creative with this, right? You could even do it in groups, right? So your first group of 5 clients get it for free. Your second group of 5 clients get it for 80% off. Your third group of clients get it for 50% off. And like that, you're able to scale your service through discounts, but you're also getting real-time feedback and you're getting paid for it, right? And then the fourth way is actually something that we did at Prepare. When we launched this course, we actually hosted a free independent contracting webinar event. We had 70 people to sign up. A few people showed up, and then from there, we provided value for the first half of the webinar. The second half was more about questions and answers, but also letting people know about our course, right? And the beauty about these 4 ways is that anybody could do them. You could pretty much do them in the industry, but you can also do a combination of it, right? Like I mentioned earlier, maybe you can host an event, and for the people that go to that event, you offer us an exclusive discount for the next time they want to purchase, etc. Right? You could also give it away for free in groups. You can also give it away for free via code messages. So feel free to get creative with this. I mean, there's different types of combinations that you can do with this. And again, this works in any industry, right? It doesn't matter whether you're selling food. It doesn't matter whether you're doing photography service. Now, the last thing that I do want to let you guys know is that we created a free 5 clients checklist down below. So make sure you go ahead and download it. It's broken down into 3 sections, from step 1 of getting people to know you, from step 2 to step 3. And it includes practical things that you can do to start getting your first 3 clients. And I guarantee that if you download the checklist and you follow everything that I just taught you, you will get your first few clients and you're going to start making money.